Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into this week's top waiver wire ads and streamable defenses for what? The fourth week of the fantasy football season. Can't believe we're already be a quarter way into the NFL year. But yeah, you guys know what to expect out of this. I'm going to go ahead and hop right in to my waiver wire targets. But just in case we do have any first time listeners, or if anybody needs a reminder, what I'm about to give you is my top waiver wire ads for the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and flex position. And the names I'm talking about, they have to be available in at least 50% of the leagues on Yahoo. So that way, like I always say, I'm trying to challenge myself, maybe find some names that you might not have heard of. There is the one name you definitely have heard of. He's the talk of the town as far as waiver wire articles and videos this week. But I would be remiss if I did not mention him just because of the availability that he does present himself. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive into it. My top quarterback out of the week, a week. Again, this is just kind of might be a constant theme because if you don't have one of the like locked in like top seven or eight guys at the quarterback position. You either are kind of disappointed in the guy that you have, or you're just kind of looking for streaming options because the waiver wire market is pretty thin. But if you're looking for a streaming option, I do think Jameis Winston does present a good option this week. This past weekend, he had 353 passing yards, a touchdown. He had two interceptions, but as I always mention with quarterbacks like a Jameis Winston, a Carson Wentz in them, they can always put up these great numbers and have a good fantasy week for you because the interceptions really don't have an impact on the overall score. And then this past week he did have two rushes for 5 yards. I don't expect him to be running often, especially because he is dealing with that back injury, and he's not playing the greatest. But I think because he's going to be throwing a lot in that Saints offense, he's going to be able to get those over 300-yard games like he did this past week. Now this next week he is going to be playing in London, so that should be noted. Those London games can get weird, but he's going against the Vikings, and as of it's only 3 games, but through the first 3 games, the Vikings have allowed the fourth most passing yards. So if you look at that, then you look at Jameis with the ability for him to have a good fantasy week on any given week. If you're looking for to stream somebody, I wouldn't mind rolling the dice on him. Now, the top ad of the week, you guys have probably heard a lot about. I probably don't have to go into much detail, but it's going to be Khalil Herbert, the backup running back for the Bears. He's available in 51% of the league, so he was definitely David Montgomery's handcuff this whole time. Obviously, people just didn't want to hold on to him after a couple weeks, so that's why he went above that 50% threshold. But this past weekend, he had the 20 rushes for 157 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he had the 2 receptions for 12 yards on 2 targets. So he's going to be the workhorse, especially when David Montgomery's out of the lineup. But even if David Montgomery were to come back this week, I would still try to get Herbert on my roster just because he's obviously one of those premium handcuffs where if the starter goes down, he's going to be an RB2 for you on your roster. Now, this week, they do got the Giants. We did see what Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard did to their running defense last night. So, the kid's going to get fed if Montgomery's out. So, if you're looking for some running back depth or somebody to play this week, assuming Montgomery is out on Sunday, I would definitely go try to pick up Khalil Herbert. My wide receiver ad of the week, I am going to go with Russell Gage, the leading wide receiver for Tampa Bay this past Sunday. He's available in 58% of the league. Now we have to keep in mind, Mike Evans was out this past Sunday, but so that did lead the Gage to be Brady's favorite target. He had the 12 receptions, 87 yards, a touchdown on 13 targets. I love those double-digit targets, but obviously the targets are gonna decrease with Mike Evans coming back. But the thing is, it came out on Sunday that Julio Jones has a partially torn PCL. So who knows when Julio Jones will be back. Chris Godwin was labeled as a week-to-week injury, and I have not heard any positive news that Chris Godwin will be back anytime soon. So, in my opinion, when you look at the pecking order of the current healthy wide receivers, I think Gage is going to be right there behind Evans. I think it was very telling that Brady did target Gage to get the potential game-tying touchdown. They didn't get the 2-point conversion, but he did look his way often, and he trusted him when it counted, and that speaks volumes if Brady's going to put that type of trust into you. Now, this week, they are going to be going against the Kansas City Chiefs, so that's a defense that you can move the ball against. So if with Evans being back, that can shift focus off Gage as well. So he's a guy where, assuming Godwin or Jones don't return to the lineup this week, I think he's like a wide receiver 3 this week, entering this week. But he's definitely a guy you should have in your bench. And if you're like if you're a manager of like a Chris Godwin, I'll be trying to get him basically kind of as Chris Godwin's handcuff going forward. And then my tight end out of the week, I'm going with Tyler Conklin, the Jets tight end. He's available in 79% of the leagues. This past game, he had 8 receptions, 84 yards on 8 targets, so he was efficient with all of his targets that he did receive this past Sunday. And then one thing I looked into it too, it looks like he's got a consistent role within that New York offense. In the first 3 games of the season, he has received at least 7 targets in each game. You guys know that's what I'm looking for out of my tight ends. I want 7+ targets, because that means if you get 7+ targets, you have a great chance of getting to at least the 50+ yard mark and likely getting yourself a touchdown. So he's gotten those in the first 3 games. So he's a guy that I think should be picked up, and if as long as that can continue, he's looking like a borderline tight end 1 going forward. And now this week they are going against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we saw the success that David Njoku had against that defense that Thursday night game last week. So if you're looking for a tight end to put him right in your lineup, I think Tyler Conklin's your guy, because the numbers at least say it with the 7 targets a game at minimum. My flex ad of the week, I am going to go with Zay Jones, one of the wide receivers down there that Trevor Lawrence has been connecting with this season. He's available in 90% of the leagues. Now this past game, he had 10 receptions for 85 yards on 11 targets. So you got to love the double-digit targets. Now I try to look into it too and make sure you're not like chasing the production, because I do get my worries with the Jaguars passing attack, because they also got Christian Kirk and they got Marvin Jones. So Christian Kirk's definitely on the top of the pecking order, and then depending on the game, might be Marvin Jones or Zay Jones. But one promising thing I found is he, in 2 out of the 3 games so far for Jacksonville, Zay Jones has received at least 9+ targets. So you're talking about 2 games where he's gotten majority of the targets. He was able to produce. So he's a guy that should definitely be on your bench. And if the matchup's right, I would definitely consider playing him. Now, they are going against the Eagles this week. Eagles got a pretty tough defense, a really good secondary. But still, he's a guy that he definitely should see an uptick in how many leagues he is rostered in. So yeah, those are my top waiver wire ads of this week. I got Jameis Winston at the quarterback position, Khalil Herbert at the running back position, Russell Gage at wide receiver, Tyler Conklin at a tight end, and then my flex ad of the week is Zay Jones. Now, moving on to the last section of the day, the streamable defenses. And just in case we got first-time listeners, or I got to give you guys a refresher, just like those players I talked about, these defenses have to be available in at least 50% of the leagues on Yahoo. So let's go ahead and go down the list. My top one of the week, I am going to go with Browns against the Falcons. And the reason why I'm going with there, I know the Falcons kind of got some nice pieces with Cordero Patterson and Kyle Pitts, but I'm still not the biggest believer in that offense, especially when they play the better defenses in the league. I don't really love their offensive line, and then assuming Myles Garrett is okay after his car accident, glad to hear that he had no life-sustaining injuries. He was discharged from the hospital this morning, and we just got to see if there was any injuries that may hold him back at least out a week. But even if he's out, I think Jadeveon Clowney should be coming back this week. They got playmakers on this defense. They got JOK, Grant Delpit in the back end, Denzel Ward. So, and I'm not the biggest believer in Marcus Mariota. So I think I could see some sacks happening, especially if we get Garrett and Clowney going off against that line, which should be able to lead to some turnovers. Now, basically the next game, you guys got the next 2 names, you guys are looking at it. I'm basically looking at defenses that are playing bad offense. Well, Giants got some pieces, but most of it's bad offenses. We got the first name I'll talk about is the Bears against the Giants. We did see how the Giants just kind of struggled last night to protect Daniel Jones. I saw, what was that stat that came out? He got pressured like 23 times, which is like the most in like 10 or 15 years, if not longer than that. And then the Bears got like a Robert Quinn up front that can get that pressure on Daniel Jones, Roquan Smith in the middle, assuming Jalen Johnson's back in the lineup in the back end. So I can see this being another rough outing for Daniel Jones, and I know it's repetitive, but we always can expect Daniel Jones to turn the ball over at least once or twice. So that's why I think if you're looking to stream a defense, Chicago's defense might not be a bad option. And then sticking with that same game, the Giants' defense, which is available in 89% of the leagues, I think they're a good play against the Bears. The Bears, they definitely got a good rushing attack going, regardless if it's Montgomery or Herbert, like I talked about earlier. But the passing game it is struggling. I've been a noted believer in Justin Fields, but I should admit that the kid has been struggling. I know his surrounding cast isn't the best, but he has airmailed some of his throws, which have led to those interceptions he's been throwing, and he hasn't been passing a lot either. So this is a struggling offense. So you're looking at a low scoring game. You're looking at a quarterback that's been turning the ball over to start the season. And it's just a similar thing with the Giants offensive line. I really don't love the Bears offensive line, so I think the Giants can get after Justin, get those sacks as well, and potentially create those turnovers. My number 4 defense, this might be I'll go ahead and say it. I think the Colts defense is definitely better than the Bears and Giants as an overall defense, assuming they'll play like they did this past Sunday against Patrick Mahomes. But they are going against the Titans. Now, the Titans have gotten the Colts number over the last couple of years, but this is not the same Titans team of the past. Taylor Lewan's done for the year, so I think the Colts are going to be able to generate the pressure, especially if that defensive front four played like they did against the Chiefs. And if they can get pressure on Ryan Tannehill, I definitely think that's going to help get those turnovers. And now, obviously, there's the concern that Derrick Henry has gotten the Colts multiple times over the last couple of years, but this Colts defense is really good up front up front defending the run. I'm hoping we get a return of Shaquille Leonard as a Colts fan. But if you're looking for a streaming defense, I wouldn't shy away from Indianapolis this week. And then my number 5, I am going with the Vikings against the Saints. This might be a deeper league play because the Vikings defense hasn't been that great to start the season. But they are available in 81% of the leagues. They're going against the Saints. It's a London game, like I mentioned earlier. So those games can get weird. As much as I think Jameis could be a sneaky streamer, Jameis can also throw like 2 or 3 pick sixes. So that's basically the gamble for me. Like I said, I don't know if I'm necessarily screaming with the Vikings defense, but if I was in a 12-14 team league, there's limited options. I would look at possibly taking advantage of the Vikings, maybe picking off Jameis a couple times. So again, my top streamable defenses of the week: the Browns against the Falcons, Bears against the Giants, Giants against the Bears, Colts against the Titans, and the Vikings against the Saints. That is this week's top waiver wire ads and streamable defenses heading into week 4 of the NFL season. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you know whenever my videos are uploaded to the channel, so you don't have to wait for me to post on all my social media platforms. And then as always, I always ask, if you guys want to, spread the love, tell a friend to check me out. And then as far as my next video is my starts and sits video. Now, normally I don't post that or upload it until Thursday mornings before I head out to my day job, but I may post it tomorrow night because, for those that are unaware, I do live in the Tampa Bay area. We have a potential hurricane. Well, we do have a hurricane coming. As of I last checked the tracker, I don't know if it's going to directly hit Tampa, but you never know with these things. They kind of go all over the place, so we got to kind of gauge it. So there's a possibility between Wednesday to Thursday I could lose the power to my apartment. So maybe to avoid any issues getting that episode out, I may post it tomorrow night after I record it and edit it and put it all together. So that's why you want to subscribe to my channel, so you know when it is uploaded. But either way, that's the next time you guys will see me. I'm going to get out of here and get this uploaded. I hope you have a great night. And then if you guys are in the Florida area, I hope you guys are safe. And I hope you guys are ready to get through this thing. Talk to you later.